I think the most important thing is people that have a connection and understand the politics of their state, particularly when you are running in a state where voters tend to vote for the other party for president. I mean, a great example of that would have been Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, where the president lost the state by 22 points, and yet Heidi, as a Democrat, managed to win. And that was in large part because she was grounded in her state, she was connected to the people there. She understood not only the politics, but the right policies.
Probably the rationale for their candidacy. I think a lot of times people get locked into like the desire, the idea of public service or running, but they don't really have a core rationale for why they want to run, and ultimately that leads to a bad campaign. Well, look, I think quality candidates are always going to. People are going to want to get involved, see what's happening in the country. The country's facing a lot of major issues are in front of it, so that's going to call, I think, people to public service. And so I'm not really worried about that part of it. I think on the legislating side of it, that it's, there's days where it gets a little bit better. You saw some legislating the last couple of months here. I'm hopeful we'll do some legislating on immigration reform and some other issues. And so I think at the end of the day, parties elect leaders for a reason, and they lead their parties through difficult times, and I expect that to continue.
Look, I think there's a lot of frustration in the Senate and in Congress generally, not just from voters, but frankly from a lot of the people that work there. And the thing that continues to surprise me year after year is that there are still people who are willing to, in some cases, put their entire lives on hold in order to join in public service. My former boss, Michael Bennett, who's now the chair of the DSEC, who was appointed to the position, actually left a high-paying job, actually left millions of dollars on the table to become the chief of staff to the mayor of Denver, because he ultimately believed in public service and his ability to make a difference. And so I think when you look at the recent candidates we've recruited in the Senate, we're still finding that people ultimately are optimists.
This is a very dynamic business that we work in, and I think that we're zeroed in on things a lot. If you do this for a living, you think about, you kind of do it day to day, and you really are kind of in the middle of it. But most people have real lives, and they kind of tune in and tune out to things just like they do in other parts of their life. And so, while what we may think is a big deal, sitting in our office in D.C., people out in their respective states may view it as kind of a flash in the pan, and so that's going to kind of fluctuate with numbers. So look, I've seen Senator Ted Cruz he had literally zero name ID and overcame being outspent and having no name ID and winning a primary and ultimately becoming a senator in Texas.
Probably the two most prominent examples over the last cycle in particular were the Senate races in Missouri and Indiana, where most folks counted Claire McCaskill as a loss from the very beginning of the cycle. And in Indiana, few people gave Congressman Joe Donnelly a chance to win. And ultimately, in those two particular cases, it happened in large part because Republicans made not only a mistake at a debate or at a press conference, but in the fact that they've let their party continually move to the far right extreme. And I think that's been a real opening for Democrats. The other reason, I think, is because people are making their decisions later and later, and there's more avenues to communicate.